So the things people have against open science are concerns about data quality, concerns about not just the quality of the actual results, but the quality of the curation that goes with the results. So the quality of the metadata, the descriptions that enable somebody else to be able to use it, the context. It's particularly concerns about the context that it was collected under. Real concerns about misinterpretation. That's a major reason why scientists don't share, is that they're afraid of being misinterpreted, they're afraid of being scooped, they're afraid of losing their competitive advantage, which is a bit like being scooped, but scoop's more aggressive. They are afraid, they want to build up their reputation, and the only mechanisms for building up reputation are really through traditional publishing routes. So they haven't got the time to do it, so I don't have the time or the resources to be able to truly do useful and worthwhile open stuff. I want to actually know who is using my, where's the infrastructure mechanisms for me to be able to know who's using it, so I can kind of somehow feel as if there's a real control thing, that if I make my results available, I want to know who's actually using it. And in fact, I don't really want to make my results completely independently available. So I want somebody to say, come to me to say, I want to use this, so that I will then work with them, so I'll get some credit from them using it. So it's a kind of like partial reveal of what I'm doing. It's a kind of hint. This is what I'm doing. This is where you can find me. But if you really want to use it, then you have to work with me. So it's all part of building up your kind of control, reputation, quality control. All those things are all concerns. How do I get cited? That's a big concern. So you asked me about all the bad things. Yeah. That's one of the bad. I've got an entire slide deck called The Selfish Scientist, which tells you why people do things, why people don't do things, and and it's what motivates people. It's the personal. What motivates you? Well, scientists are motivated by the same thing everybody is: fame and glory, reputation. Everybody using my stuff, making progress towards science, but basically me. And what their fears are, me. So you have to put yourself into their shoes and see, well, are you asking them to do something that actually, in the end, actively penalises them? Well, if it in the end penalises you, you're not going to do it, are you? However much people say you must do this. Well, not if it's in your self-interest. It's not selfish, it's self-interest. So one has to be sensible about this. So that is an issue. Now, peer review, that's why I say people are touchingly attached to peer review. It is, of course, fundamentally a broken system, because it depends on who are your peers, and peers are just people. They're people like you and me. So we complain about peer review, but we are also the people that peer review. So we're complaining about ourselves. What we complain about is that it's a lottery, because you have to pick people from the community, and of course they may all be against that approach. It has a tendency towards conservatism, because the most interesting things are on the radical end of things, and peer review tends to it's the standard way. If you do a big referendum, you'll get the conservative viewpoint. So that from that point of view, it's tricky. If you can't really reproduce results in a transparent kind of way, how can you ever actually tell whether it really works? To do true peer review, you have to repeat, and nobody's got the time or the resources or even the possibility of doing that. So it's all a best effort approach. So in that sense, it is a tricky system, and people do game it, but that's what editors are there for, to stop the gaming. So. There's this availability and open access to the papers, and as well as to the open results. So, and this is all tied in with the whole open government aspects, that people are expecting to see raw data, and they're also expecting to see interpreted data. One of the big fears that people have about releasing results and releasing data is that it will not be interpreted correctly. That people don't understand, for example, particularly derived or predicted results or statistically analysed results. That there's a fundamental misunderstanding of the scientific method or the procedures involved, and then they get the wrong end of the stick. And that is the worst nightmare of a scientist, is somebody gets the wrong end of the stick. Things that we're most nervous about. And it's also true for other open government data. So we have, if we're going to make lots of things available, you also have to improve, or kind of make it. You have to be a bit defensive, actually. So you could, for example, I've seen this happen, that there are some sites where you can go to for particularly environmental data, where you have to go through a bit of a tutorial and pass a whole series of questions before you're allowed the data. So you have to have demonstrated that you have some basic understanding of sample sizes and other things, so that before they actually expose it to you. I mean, it's all available and anybody can do it, but you have to jump these hurdles first. And it's an attempt to try to bring some scientific method to the people who will be interpreting the results. So yeah, that's a good point. Some of the things that I think I may have been mentioning to do with the risks and fears of people sharing, and the fact that I mean, I've got entire keynotes based on this, that the particularly in very hierarchical disciplines, where the competition is so fierce that people in their own research labs don't share with one another. So we did some field work when we were building the My Experiment system. We sent in the developers, because we embed a lot, they sit with, and they observed some citizens biologists actually. And when they came back, they said, well, we're going to be producing collaboration tools and ways of being people to be able to share their results, but they don't actually talk to one another, even if they're sitting next door to one another. They do if the professor comes in, and then they don't when he leaves. So the professor thinks that they're all collaborating, but actually they're not. They're all competing.
Yeah, well, someone shared a cartoon diagram of how it works. I think it was physics again, maybe. And it was a pyramid, and along the bottom was all these undergrads, and then the next layer up was people doing their PhDs, and then the postgrads, and then the two people that maybe get to be the professor's proteges.
Yeah,
so that one
the fellows.
they
yeah,
could be the one professor, and they slurp in all these students.
Yeah,
because that's how they get.
Yeah,
they get the good people at the top, but what happens to all the ones that get cut back all along the way? And
exactly, and it's and the one that's and particularly the open science stuff. What you get at the moment is you'll get the bottom tier will be open because they're naturally open, particularly the new generation, which are all twittering and Facebooking and goodness knows what else. Their natural disposition is to share things. Like the student, the team member who shared his data for epilepsy, and the top will often, bizarrely, well, in some cases, particularly visionaries will share because they've made it. Their reputation is established. they haven't got anything to
They're
lose.
safe. They have tenure or whatever.
They have
They don't
tenure
have to worry
and so
about
on.
not paying their mortgage if they,
Exactly.
yeah.
The middle lump, no.
Yeah.
Because the middle lump are trying to climb that slippery slope, and it is competitive. The knives are out. You know, I've heard so many stories of people who've been scooped. You know, they shared the result and then discovered the paper published without the name on it. Happens, and it's the biggest thing you can do to destroy, you know, somebody's reputation, or just to, you know, is to you know, not give them credit. I've known people who've fallen out permanently on the order of the names on a paper. Happens, or you could walk down any corridor in a university and people will be able to tell you stories of arguing with you on the first, second or third name destroyed a collaboration.